am Jen, and I am here with Dr. Beer. Dr. Beer is a retired chemistry professor, a home brewer since 1997, and a certified beer judge since 2000. He is also a speaker for the American Chemical Society and speaks on the chemistry of beer. He's also my dad. We are here today to admire my chicken hat and talk about Oktoberfest beers. Where did Oktoberfest come from?
Well, Jen, Oktoberfest started out as a festivity to celebrate the marriage of Ludwig I to Princess Teresa of Saxe-Hildburghausen. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The celebration was just outside the gates of the city of Munich, and the very next year somebody proposed that they have a festival again, and that made it an annual event, which has been held pretty much every year. There have been a few years during wars and COVID pandemics where they did not have Oktoberfest, but it draws a few million people each year.
To Munich specifically?
Yes, it's Munich.
And do they wear chicken hats?
I don't know if they wear chicken hats or do chicken dances.
Well, we do here.
Okay.
All right. So what makes an Oktoberfest a good Oktoberfest?
Okay, well, first of all, Oktoberfests are lagers. So that means they're going to be light in flavor, at least what's contributed from the yeast. The emphasis is going to be on malt. It's not going to be bitter at all. And it's not going to be very heavy bodied. But as it turns out, there's two categories of Oktoberfests. One is a very pale color, and one is kind of an amber color. And the amber one's called a Marzen because it's made in March. And the other one's called a Fest beer, an Oktoberfest beer, which is trademarked, by the way. And it is pale in color. So that's the first thing we're going to look at when we taste these Oktoberfest beers, is try to figure out, is it the Marzen type that's amber, or is it the pale type, which is a Fest beer?
Okay, fair enough. So one's just aged a little more?
No, it's a little bit of different malt that's being used. Okay. The amber one has a pinch of some sort of dark malt that gives it a little bit of color and a kind of a light toast flavor. Since it is a lager, one of the things that could happen with lager that's very bad is to have a poor fermentation that has too much flavor characteristic. One of the flavor characteristics that can come out is diacetyl, which is kind of a buttery flavor. That's a huge problem, although it's not a problem in Oktoberfest professional beers. And so that's the main thing you're looking for is a light-bodied, something that's easily drinking. You have a sip, you enjoy it, you're not so full that you have some more.
What are some good things to eat along with your Oktoberfest beers?
I would say a pretzel.
With
Pretzels,
beer cheese?
The traditional, that's right, beer cheese, pretzel should go quite well. I wouldn't pick anything too sweet, nor would I pick anything heavy meat like a steak or anything like that.
A salty bar snack?
No, maybe a salty bar snack
just
would be
bread.
Okay. But nothing spicy, peppery.
Okay. I came here because I heard you would give me beer.
Well, that's the reason we're doing this. I figure the real reason is you wanted to try some Oktoberfest.
Yep, so we are going to try some.
Okay. Right. Number one is Weihenstephaner. It's a classic German brewery. They actually have a brewery school there, and many of the yeasts that brewers use come from this actual brewery. I expect, on past experience, this is going to be a pale-colored Fest beer.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorites.
Since 1040.
Yes, it's a brewery.
Since 1040.
1040.
So maybe they know how to make a beer.
Well, there you go. Hey, pale color, look at that.
All right.
You want some?
Well, it's my fee.
Perfectly clear, that's one thing you're looking for.
Okay.
Lagers should be absolutely clear enough to read through a newspaper. It's about the right color.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay.
Prost.
Prost. A little grainy on the smell, just ever so slight hop aroma. Really fine.
This tastes more like a normal lager to me.
Well, it's very close to a normal lager.
Okay.
Just maybe a bit maltier and a little sweeter than normal.
Okay.
Other thing that I like in lagers is a lager characteristic that comes across as just a touch sulfury, but this really doesn't have that much in it. So
It's good.
yeah, oh yeah, I could drink a liter of that. Does have a little bitterness, just enough to balance that grainy sweetness. So Warsteiner, another classic German brewery.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, just based on the fact that it doesn't look very colored, this is also a Oktoberfest beer style pale. The German brewery started making this pale version about 1990.
Okay.
Before then, most of their beers were a little bit more heavy-bodied and more like the ambers we're going to have, which are still made in the United States, more in that style. Okay. The other thing I want you to notice is the blue diamond pattern, blue and white. That's the Bavarian flag. Many German breweries will have that on their Oktoberfest.
Yep. There's a few of the other ones do too.
Yeah,
Actually,
right. It's traditional, even if you're a U.S. brewery, to use that pattern.
Okay.
All right. This is a third of a liter, basically.
Okay.
So it looks like 12 ounces, but it's 11.2.
Oh, cheats.
They're not cheating you. It's just a third of a liter. It looks a little darker than the other one.
It does.
But it's not amber, really, like we'd expect from some of the others we're going to see.
So if someone's just going to the store to grab, they want to grab an Oktoberfest, is it a pretty solid thing that if they look for these blue and white diamonds, that, hey, that's a pretty good
that's going to be an
hint?
Oktoberfest.
Okay.
It's probably skunked a little bit, okay? So what happens is if you have this is not a super dark brown bottle, but the sunlight or other visible light that's a little on the higher frequency range toward UV. So violet light would go through this bottle and do a photochemical reaction that produces this skunk flavor. Okay. But it blows off pretty quickly. So if you were to swirl it, it'll probably get rid of most of that pretty quickly.
Okay.
The other thing is your taste buds and your sensors in your nose will kind of get blind to it after a while.
Get used to it?
Yeah.
I don't smell it as much. So
it's not as good as the other one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, Warsteiner, up your game. But, it could be a function just how long it's been on the shelf, or if it was on the shelf under some lights for a while, they could do it.
Gotcha.
That's why a beer in a can is actually a good idea.
Because it protects better light protection.
Oh yeah, that Weinsteffer was an excellent shape. No flaws at all. This could have been light struck.
Okay.
But that's the chance you take with an import beer.
Oh, well, yeah, so is that more of a problem for an import beer just because of the longer transport route?
Yep. Usually are on a slow boat. Next one.
Number 3.
Eyinger. This one says Marzen, so we are expecting something darker. The other thing I want to show you is the pretty, beautiful cap on this thing.
It's a little Sound of Music.
Yeah, a lot of people like to collect caps. This is definitely a very collectible cap. It's just beautiful. Whoa! Hey, there we go.
Whoa.
Look at that. We got a gusher. Now, in a homebrew, that would be a bad sign that fermentation has occurred inside the bottle. You can see a little bit darker color on it.
So what does that mean when it's a commercial beer does that?
Well, it could mean a couple of things. That there's a little bit of unfermented sugar in there, or there was a beastie in there that can ferment sugar that yeast can't. So we shall see when we taste it.
Okay.
Prost.
Prost.
There you go.
That one's much more kind of that malty.
Yeah,
It definitely
yeah.
tastes the malt difference.
Way more malty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit caramel even.
Yeah.
You can pick up maybe a little bit of a toast,
I like this.
like light toasted bread. You
Yeah.
don't want something like burnt toast. Yeah, this is the style that most people in the U.S. would get.
This is, when I think of Oktoberfest, this is kind of the flavor that I think of.
So if you're getting an Oktoberfest from Germany, look for Marzen
Marzen.
because it's brewed in March.
Okay. That's the more traditional.
It used to be.
What I
yes,
think of as
it's
Oktoberfest.
traditional, which is no longer, I guess you might say traditional. I mean, what is tradition anyway?
That's yummy.
It tastes fine. So it was probably just a little extra fermentation, maybe bottled with just a little bit unfermented sugar in there. Now this one is from a local brewery. Jen lives in Cincinnati. So this is Franz. And so Franz is our Oktoberfest brow, not traditional, but uber German. He's an autumnal brew, a bit of a dreamer, often hiking in the Alps, to return brimming with great ideas. Like those brisk hikes in steep mountains, these Munich and Vienna malts will pump you up.
So it makes you both smart and bigger muscles.
And strong.
Okay.
And the mention about the hiking, it's a very popular outdoor activity in Germany, actually. All right. So you can see the tribute to the Bavarian flag here. They mentioned it's not traditional, so I expect an amber.
The Marzen.
Yeah. But we shall see what they think of as traditional. It's hard to say.
Kind of somewhere in between.
All right, that's kind of like the old
The lighter
German
one.
style. Yep. We shall see when we taste it if it's toasty or very sweet. American styles tend to be a little hoppier too. American anything. Definitely hoppier. A little more bitter.
Yeah.
I would say it doesn't have much of that toast flavor coming through. It's pretty bitter as far as Oktoberfest goes. It's not nearly as bitter as IPAs or anything like that. But
Yeah, that's.
they didn't back off. That's good.
Yeah.
It's good if you like something a little more bitter
Well,
to balance that sweetness.
Yeah.
Some people don't like sweet beers.
I'm not a fan of the uber bitter. So it's a little bitter for my taste, but a lot of people do like that.
Yep. So a lot of these flavors come from malts that are made in the classic European style called Pilsner malts. They're made for lagers, and but some of them are roasted a little darker. That's what some of these are.
So I'd say in color, this is a little darker than the other ones, but
I think the
the same?
Eyinger was darker than that, but
oh yeah, but
the first two
Warsteiner.
fest beers. So when they say it's not traditional, I think they're talking about the not the amber style. So Rheingeist probably followed Reinheitsgebot.
what?
Reinheitsgebot.
Oh.
That's the German purity law,
Oh.
which is not so much a law as a set of guidelines. There's some laws that go with it. This one's also got a fairly wide distribution in the Midwest. A nice, pretty painted label. I think is probably an homage to the Eyinger bottle cap.
Yeah.
So this is toasty and smooth, so I'm expecting an amber style. And it's also pretty alcoholic, 6.5%. Now that's the other thing about the fest beers. They're not quite as low alcohol as as your typical lagers. Hearty hoisting. I guess if it's hearty hoisting, we've got to say Prost again.
Yeah. Prost.
But you know, it's not deeply amber.
But darker than the
Yeah.
Rheingeist, I feel. So,
Still clear as
oh, but it does say
crystal.
Martzen, yeah?
Yeah.
It does say it's Martzen style.
And Mortson style. There you go. So now we know what to expect. It's got a little more sweetness and a little less bitterness.
Which I like. So this is in my head what a malty
Right?
Oktoberfest
Well, that's
tastes
good.
like.
It's super clean character, though. I mean, all of them have been good fermentations. Nice lagers. 20 IBUs. That's fairly bitter, I would say.
For an Oktoberfest? Or
Well,
in general?
just in general. I mean, it's not up there with IPAs, but it's not nothing.
It must be balanced well.
I think it's balanced well.
It doesn't come across as too bitter for me.
Nice picture of the beer glass called a Maas. It's a liter, and it's got kind of the scalloped outside on it.
Does that serve a function, or is that just a design?
I mean, they have a clear handle. I think I think it's just to make it have a certain look. Last one,
Good deal.
as Jen pointed out, this is also a Cincinnati beer. Probably most of the production of Sam Adams is done in the Cincinnati area.
This is brewed in Cincinnati.
Brewed in Cincinnati.
Yep.
So one thing about Oktoberfest is you can be pretty sure they're fresh if you get them in August.
Yeah.
So the period of Oktoberfest runs from mid-September to mid-October or early October, and the period of time is 16 days to end on the first Sunday in October. But if that Sunday falls on a certain day, like German reunification day, it could be 17 or 18 days. Okay. So the length of Oktoberfest starts in September, ends in early October. All right. This one I almost certain is an amber style. I mean, it always has been, and I can imagine it's always will be.
I've had this one.
Definitely amber.
Oh, yeah.
You know, easy to get. Of course, well made for what it is.
Your grocery store, any basic
Any grocery store will have
that.
this right now. And so, of course, you have to think about if a lager takes at least a month to make. They had to make this in July or earlier, June. So the original Marzen style were made in March. Turned out in Bavaria, there were laws against brewing in the summer. After some time in April, St. George's Day. So they would brew in late spring and then lager, store them in caves with ice, blocks of ice and straw over the summer. Definitely heavier on the toast though. Yeah. The heaviest body, maybe. It's not heavy bodied, but it's hearty and smooth.
Yeah.
Might as
It's
well
a good beer.
agree with what they said. It's hearty and smooth.
Hearty and smooth. Agreed. So who won?
Who won? Well,
What?
my favorite is number one. Hands down for me.
All right. I like both of these. This would probably I might like this one a little bit more, but for commercial availability, that's probably more convenient.
This is actually pretty easily available commercially.
Okay.
Back home, it's sold in bottles.
But a can would be preference for the light.
Can would be a preference. Can is superior. But if you can get a box that's not been opened, you know, there's been no light exposure.
Oh, like
so.
a cardboard box?
Yep.
Bottles in a cardboard box? That makes sense. It's been fun.
It has been fun.
Cheers.
All right.